Hi, I'm Claire from the Cheshire Wedding House, and I'm going to give you a few tips on how to lace up a dress in case you're stuck on the big day with a bride panicking. So, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the bride is feeling comfortable at the front. Are you feeling comfortable at the front? If needed with some dresses, it might be a good idea just to get the bride just to support herself just there as you're lacing the dress up. So, the first thing that I do is I make sure that the ribbon is sitting nicely. So I just make sure that I've got checked and got it even. So I have it even at an approximate length either side. Then we need to make sure that this modesty panel is sitting in the right place. Don't panic at this point if it's not quite matching up, because what you want to do is gently ease the bride into her dress, not squeeze her into it. So always when we're lacing up, when we're putting any bride in their dress, remember that the effect we're looking for is wow and not wowzer. So we always make sure that the boobs are sitting comfortably at the front. And then I just go from side to side. There are actually many techniques for lacing in, but this one is the one that avoids the least amount of errors. Okay, so we're just going to go from side to side, making sure that the ribbons are sitting comfortably. If you can see at this point, there's still a gap down there, so don't panic and think that the bride's not going to fit into it, or that they've put a little bit of weight on with a few takeaways before the big day. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on doing this down a little bit, probably to about just below the bra strap, and then we're starting to readjust and getting them sitting comfortably into the dress. So ease the ribbon so that it's sitting, but don't panic at this point if there still needs to. What you're looking for is that you're taking out the major twists in it. So then we make sure that we get the modesty panel. Now often they do have poppers, so you can pop it in or you can get it to the point. So don't worry at this point again if it just comes unpopped. This is what we're aiming for, that it gets to that point. And then just pull them in and tighten them a little. Again, readjusting them as we're going. Until you tie it at the end, it is always going to have a little bit of flexibility. Okay. This is the point where the bride starts getting a little bit bossy. So I suggest a glass of Prosecco for the bride at this point, and that gives you time to carry on concentrating on getting them laced up properly. So we're just going to carry on moving down. And what we were thinking of doing at the Cheshire Wedding House is putting a little series of clips together with some top tips for how to cope on the big day with a bride who's panicking. So for example, one thing that we think we might do is show you how to remove makeup from the bridal gown, something that can easily happen as they're putting it on. And then they get in a real panic, but it's actually very simple. With a little bit of soap and water, we'll show you how to do that. So as you can see, we're moving down here, but again, I'm still not pulling very tight at all at the moment. So as we get down to what I would call the start of where the knickers would be, that's where we just have a look again and just use the opportunity to readjust the gown. So if you can see here, the modesty panel has just slipped slightly at the back. So this is just the opportunity to get it repositioned. Check that it's sitting comfortably and check also that it's symmetrical. Sometimes as you're pulling them in, you can gently tug the dress around. So this is the chance just to go round and check the front, check it's sitting nicely. Just readjust anything if it needs doing that, and then pull the modesty panel up again. So again, you can try and pop her in. Don't panic if they never do pop in. They're just there for a little bit of a guidance. And I just gently pulling it down. Now, the photographer will always ask for a dramatic shot with you pulling out the ribbons. That's fine for the photograph, but that's not actually the way to adjust it yourself. So you pull it from side to side, because that puts the least strain on the lace bits here. Again, you don't have to panic if it's not quite sitting right, because you can finish that off later on, but I would just take the opportunity to take any twists out as I'm going around before it starts getting too tight and you can't kind of move the lacing. So just as you're pulling and readjusting, take the opportunity to make sure that the ribbon is sitting in the right place. Okay. There we go. Sometimes again the bride starts going, what are you doing? Why isn't it sitting right? But don't worry, pour another glass for her. Okay. So there we go. Now the aim is to have a kind of nice triangle going down. So that's what you keep looking at doing. Sometimes the bride will want you to pull in and pull in around the waist. That's okay, it's her big day, but just remember to make sure that you're always pulling in from side to side and that you don't pull in too dramatically at any point. It's always about easing the dress. Because believe it or not, you can actually break the boning in the dress if you pull too hard. Remember, they are delicate things, wedding dresses. Now, if the worst thing happens and you do pull one of these, and sometimes the lace can pop out and become one big one essentially. If that happens, don't panic, have a sewing kit on hand, or the hotels always have sewing kits as well, and just take it in and just reinforce it from the back as opposed to the part of the dress that's showing, and that'll be fine. Okay, so we're getting down to the bottom now. Again, just check that everything's sitting nicely and that you're happy with it. Like I say, I've seen different ways that people do it. Some people take one lace from side to side, but this allows for the least amount of errors because you're literally just swapping over one to the other. Now there are various ways as well that brides tie them. Some people like to have a bow in the back and other people like to tuck them down. So what I do is I'll get to the bottom, then I just put a quick loop in over like that, check the bride's happy and just check if there's anything else that she wants adjusting. If they do decide that they want a little bit of the waist taken in, which they often do, just pull it from side to side, and again making sure that the lacing and the ribbon is sitting nicely. Does that feel okay, Paula?
It does.
Now, when you try on a bra at John Lewis's or Marks and Spencer's or any other retailers that sell underwear, they often tell you just to lean forward and just check that you're filling the cups. This point might be the time just before you do that to get the bride just to check that she's nicely sitting in the gown. If they need to, you can just get them to lean forward and just slightly adjust. So if they want a bow, you just tie a nice bow for them, but personally I prefer it when we tuck it down. So literally threading it down, same on the other side, and then it often helps to go up and under the dress and just readjust it and check that the bride isn't going to be tripping over it. So I'll just poke this down, and if you bring it towards you as it does, you'll see that it folds kind of nicely and just finishes it off for the bride. And then this is where you deserve the nice glass of Prosecco now, because you've done a great job. So you can relax until it comes to the point where the bride wants it loosening after her wedding breakfast. So we need to thank Amanda Wyatt for letting us use the Adore dress from her collection to demonstrate this. And as you can see now, if you've just folded it towards you, it just gives a nice finish. And there's Paula, looking beautiful in her wedding gown, ready for her big day. Thank you, Paula.